I just got back from vacation and noticed Kamala Harris has surged ahead of Trump in the polls.
Forget the polls for a second and let's ask this question. If Trump is really in a good position, why are Republican cuckolds like Fox News freaking out this close to the election?
No, last week on my show, we did a story on a drug that makes the skin of mice transparent. Why? Why would you do that? Because that way you can see what's wrong with the body without having to cut it open. And that is progress. It's called transparency. Why don't we have that mentality here? If we had that mentality in the election system, make it transparent, then we don't have to cut it open after the election. The race is over, but the integrity of the election is still in question. I'm extremely confused by the polls. Right? Everybody says, here, look at these polls, but the internal polls are different. And it's like, okay, if the internal polls are better, why don't we look at the internal polls? Screw the other polls. It's like a doctor giving you a diagnosis and then a different one for the hospital. Why is he doing that? It's because so he can get you on an experimental drug that has not been tested and now I can't cross my legs for a month? That is wrong. But I think that there's been a huge new demand placed on the voter in terms of vigilance about the election. But it's also, we have to be extra vigilant about public transportation, our streets at night, what your kids are being taught in schools. You have to be vigilant about who's coming into your country, what you're being fed, what drugs you're using, legal or otherwise. I think we're exhausted by the constant vigilance. There's a opportunity cost there that you got to pay attention to everything. And I think that maybe Kamala's looks exhausted, but we're exhausted.
Yeah.
We're tired of having to continue to watch out for everything.
Okay, first, Gutfeld is claiming the Democrats are going to steal the 24 election just like 2020. But as you know, 60 courts, along with Bill Barr and even Ivanka, all concede that 2020 was straight up.
How did that affect your perspective about the election when Attorney General Barr made that statement?
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
But that's what's happening here. Fox News is in a rabid mode because Trump is like a car headed down a hill with no brakes. And you can blame it on his mental acuity, but it's more than that. Take Trump's fascination with Hitler.
What would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, first of all, you should never say that.
A weird and disturbing part of Donnie's persona. And then watch Brian Kilmeade double down on the insanity.
But the bottom line is, if you read H.R. McMaster's book, who is critical of President Trump in some of it and not in others, he talks about how Madison Kelly didn't like the president. And they didn't think he deserved the job, or they didn't think he was worthy of the job. And they went out of his way to make sure a lot of the things they asked him to do that they didn't like never got done. McMaster would be frustrated because he couldn't get their attention. And he would say, it's not your job to rein in the president. It's your job to do what the president wants. And then you factor in the fact that he runs his own company, coming from the business world, the first one we've ever had. It's not even a public company. And then he obviously has frustration. And I could absolutely see him go, now, you know what? It would be great to have German generals that actually do what we asked them to do.
German generals who actually do what we wanted them to do? Like death camps? Come on, Kilmeade, you pasty waffle cock. What's wrong with you? These generals, our generals, swear an oath to the Constitution, remember?
We don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator.
I want to be a dictator.
Did you forget that, Brian? Oh, and yes, Trump called for tearing up the Constitution, too.
And then on Saturday, seemingly out of nowhere, called for the suspension of the Constitution as yet another attempt to overturn the 2020 election.
But let's get back to why Fox is freaking out.
Squaring off against an old white guy. They like that she's going to all just talk about abortion. And they like the fact that she was a prosecutor and he's a felon.
Are they worried that Trump might actually go too far? And how far is too far for Trump? Seriously, remember this?
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody.
When we saw that the first time, everyone blanched. Wow, he went too far. But no, he was simply warming up.
I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Now Trump will say anything out loud. He's blaming Jews and African Americans for Harris's numbers, and anyone who's paying attention knows that Trump will abandon them 10 minutes after swearing in.
Discriminating against and denigrating, just denigrating white people.
The truth is, Fox News will say anything to save Trump.
Corrupt, high-ranking law enforcement officials tried to rig an election and destroy Donald Trump at all costs.
Now, John Kelly is a 4-star general whose son died defending our country.
What would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
First of all, you should never say that.
Do you believe him or do you believe this?
He took showers with the other pros. They came out of there. They said, oh, my God.
And Fox defends Trump's comments about the enemies within.
It's the enemy from within. All the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country, that's a bigger enemy than China and Russia.
Okay, let's stop right there. When Trump says that out loud, you know Fox knows the danger that Trump's words pose to our democracy.
I think Republicans need to see this.
But they're simply too weak and so afraid of losing their audience, they'll say whatever the audience wants to hear.
The 2020 presidential election was not fair. No honest person would claim that it was fair.
And of course, that only encourages Trump's Waffle House base of hillbillies to attack Democrats and the media.
Congressman, do you consider Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi to be the enemy from within?
It is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists, and they're sick. I use a guy like Adam Schiff because they made up the Russia hoax.
MAGA and Trump have both joked about the attack on Pelosi's husband and encouraged Dairy Queen to attack the young survivors of the Parkland massacre, as well as the families of over 100 hospitalized Capitol Hill police who were attacked on January the 6th. I guarantee you Fox and all their little meetings are acknowledging what I just said. Fox knows this to be true. If Trump loses, it is more than just a loss. It is a repudiation of their lies and propaganda and the talentless humps who shill for this unyielding sociopath. Fox News has become a collection of racist and misogynistic mopes, carrying water for a man who tried to overthrow our government and along the way now call Harris to be raped and for black people to get over slavery.
She's going to get paralyzed in the Situation Room while the generals have their way with her. They're teaching how black people developed skills during slavery in some instances that could be applied for their own personal benefit.
Now, many of you are asking this question. How could this election be this close?
I have no idea.
Well, it might not be. In the past, polls undersampled Trump's base. And also, Trump's base made it clear they didn't like being polled. But that's changed. Now they're answering phone calls and texts. But we might be oversampling Republicans. And the second part is 538 and others are including polls commissioned by the RNC without the usual scientific sampling.
If Trump wins, will you accept the results?
Of course.
If Kamala wins, will you accept the results?
No.
Instead, asking only Republicans questions and thus showing Trump with a huge lead. They're doing it so when they lose, they can demand a recount based on their bullshit poll.
As vice president, Kamala Harris is tasked with certifying the election. But what if she's the opponent of the winner? And what if she objects to the election?
The reality is we have Democrats like Jamie Raskin who have already said they have no intention of trying to make sure that we're going to see President Trump. They have no intention of counting the electorate.
Okay, Chip Roy is a lying sack of shit. Jamie Raskin said no such thing. And of course, Harris would fulfill her duties and certify the election. The glaring irony is that for years, Republicans called us snowflakes. But who's crying now?
That's all I'm going to say.
MAGA is a huge cabal of whiny little bitches who are unable to process this simple fact. They're going to lose.
It's not fair.
Ha ha, suck it up, fat boy.
Damn right.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Tick-tock,
This is not a normal election.
Yes!
That is crazy.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
They're eating the dogs.
Trust me.
Shut the f*** up, Dan.
Who's with me?
Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes!
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.